Chair.
This meeting of the Standing Finance Committee is now called to order. Honorable members, in accordance with Standing Order 82.6 and 87, this meeting of the Standing Finance Committee was convened to consider proposals for the supplementation of appropriation for the fiscal year 2019. Honorable members, in accordance with Standing Order 45.1, the speaking time in Standing Finance Committee shall not exceed 5 minutes on each intervention. Our procedure this afternoon shall be as follows. 1, the head and the amount to be supplemented will be announced. Secondly, the minister with responsibility will then be invited to provide an explanation for the supplementation. Thirdly, as chair, I will then propose the question that the head be supplemented. Fourthly, members may then seek clarification from the minister. Fifthly, once this is concluded, I as chair will then put the question that the sum to be supplemented be approved. Sixthly, the procedure will be repeated for each head. Thereafter, the committee I would also now ask the committee to note that a variation of appropriation from Head 43, Ministry of Works and Transport, to Head 18, Ministry of Finance, is required to meet capital expenditure in the sum of $20,187,071.
The practice for variation to be dealt with, since this is a supplementation, other than at this forum?
Minister of Finance.
Could you contextualize the question, please? Be specific.
Surprised that this variation is being dealt with because it's moving from one ministry to the next ministry on the basis of a cabinet decision. And where is the parliamentary approval for that process?
I don't follow.
Okay. Yeah. You have, on the basis of a cabinet decision.
Which page are you on?
No, I'm on the last page of the bill.
Of the bill?
On the last page of the agenda for the second meeting of the Standing Finance Committee. And it says that it should be noted that a variation of appropriation is required to meet capital expenditure in the sum of $20 million as set out. Right, from the Ministry of Finance. And the explanation is that it was allocated to the Ministry of Works, and Cabinet took a decision for it now to be, for this matter to be dealt with by the, that is the construction of the ANR, Robinson International Airport, to enter into a contract with NITCO. The question I have is that, how is it that you're going to have a variation at this stage prior to, and all this activity took place prior to the parliamentary approval of it?
No. We are just varying the funds. All we are doing is there was an appropriation for the Ministry of Works in the sum of $20,187,071. That allocation has not been drawn down on yet. Okay?
Okay.
Right, good.
Okay, so, honorable members, we shall now consider the proposals for supplementation for fiscal year 2019. Head 03, Judiciary. Head 03, Judiciary, a supplementation of $57,682,800. I will now invite the Attorney General to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes. Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
This is self-explanatory as is headed out into the document across 3 categories. Firstly, in respect of lease rental, secondly, contract employment, and thirdly, fees. The lease rental is really for our 19 locations. The sum is exactly distributed across the 19 locations in terms of rental monies which are due and payable over the course of the financial year. There was an inadequate allocation in the first appropriation, and therefore we're supplementing on this occasion to the tune of 13 million. Under contract employment, this is a critical aspect. This contract employment, 31 million odd, nearly 32 million sum, is specifically for the operationalization of the criminal division, which is afoot. That law has been proclaimed. It is in operation, but the build-out of the balance of positions for contract employment requires a supplementation of $32 million, $31.6 million. As you know, the last positions to be proclaimed into effect will be the magistracy registrars and clerks of the peace. The rest of the act came into effect on December 31st last year. The allocation in respect of fees is for funeral homes, psychiatric, psychological services, etc. These are the ancillary services which go. They are not fees in the traditional sense that you would see legal fees, etc. They're the fees associated with the operationality of the court, the coroner's division, the psychologist division, all of the services that operate in the family and children division, and in some of the adjunct areas of the children's court where you will have those provisions as we have amended laws last year. That, in summary, therefore, is the rationale for our supplementation of appropriation for the judiciary.
Member for Oropouche.
Honorable AG, if we were to look at the revised estimate for 2018, we'll see it's 11.8 million. Then there was, it was now estimated at 22.6 million 2019. So we are seeing almost a 50% increase above the 2019 budgeted figure. So what we are looking at is over 200% increase from 2018 to 2019. Can you reconcile that?
Sure. When you look at the figures for the years prior, what happened is we climbed the expenditure down from 2015. When we were left with a 96% deficit in our revenue, everybody had to take a haircut. So we took the expenditure from a whole of government perspective and the judiciary, we took it down from 2015. This 200% increase is a year-on-year comparison that you're doing. But when you take it from a block-on-block comparison from the 2015 aggregated figures, it in fact represents less expenditure by the judiciary. So this is a different structure of management that we've gone into, and this is for...
Madam, could I just intervene here? Would expenditure in previous years and so on be relevant to the exercise today? Or are we just dealing with supplementation of the 2019 estimates?
We're in effect dealing with the supplementation of the 2019 figures. But I allowed the question because the member actually posed it in the context that there was, additionally, there was a 50% increase. That was part of the question.
Yes.
A 50% increase in the estimates for 2019.
I'm just wondering if questions regarding 2018 and 2017 expenditure would be permitted today. Madam Chairman?
So, Madam Chair,
Said, I
Okay,
think
thank you.
I made that clear.
did the answer to the honourable member.
Member for Caroni East.
Honorable Attorney General, you might choose not to give the details now or probably give it in writing. But would it be possible for you to give the locations of these rental offices, the places that they are rented, and the details of the cost for the rentals, if you'd be kind enough to note it?
Sure.
And how many months overdue are the respective rents that you have to pay? And how did the judiciary select these particular locations?
Sure, we can do that. And what I can tell you is that the entire portfolio of judiciary rental will be exactly the same as it was as at the end of 2015, save in respect of three premises only. One is the Faizabad Court, which the opposition has asked 1,000 questions about. It was selected by the judiciary under the previous government. Secondly is the Children's Court as located on Elizabeth Street, which was opened a couple of years ago. And thirdly, it is the transfer of property from the Attorney General's office to the Judiciary at Pembroke Street. That third property was a property rented by the previous Attorney General and which was left empty for 5 full years, unoccupied. We took the opportunity to transfer that to the Judiciary. So just to refresh your memory, it is just those 3 properties only. We have been the subject of many questions in relation to those properties in this session of the Parliament and in the previous sessions. So I don't know if you would still want to have the answers beyond that.
No, I think you have given satisfactory answers on that, but Madam Chair, can I just one more? The San Fernando Magistrates Court, are you doing anything to help the situation there by finding alternative
Yes,
locations?
we have.
But I'm not going to allow, I'm not going to allow that under rent.
Yeah.
Because
well,
from the response that was given, I would not allow that under rent.
Well, Madam Chair, I was just trying to find out if they are considering renting any other place where, if that is included in this.
And I believe from the answer, the Attorney General says nothing has really changed except 3.
Yeah, but we have a place that's been allocated and assigned.
Member for Oropouche West.
Been allocated there.
AG, there is a new building in Princestown which ought to house the Princestown Magistrate Court. It is unoccupied. Is it at present a rent is being paid with the building not occupied by the Princestown Magistrate Court? As you are aware, we have Princestown.
Member for Oropouche West, is it that you want to ask
If it's at present.
is included in the 19 locations?
Yes.
I will allow that.
Sure, just give me a moment. No. It's not included in the 19 locations. It has not been secured.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could the Honorable Attorney General clarify whether these 19 locations fit the bill of meeting the OSHA requirements? And I also make it in the context of recently an assistant DPP complained about officers of the judicial system, magistracy, police, the public and so on had to share common toilet facilities and the risk and so on.
Madam Chairman, are we going to go into general discussions or are we dealing with the substantive items?
Minister of Finance, I was just allowing the member to ask his question and then I'll determine whether I'll allow.
Thank you.
Please. Yes, Member for Couva South.
I asked the question in the context of being OSHA compliant and so on.
And therefore, in terms of what we are about today, Member for Couva South, I would not allow that question.
Madam
May
Chair,
be valid, and you will certainly have other opportunities to ask that. Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 03 Judiciary be supplemented by the sum of $57,682,800. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Head 03 Judiciary has been supplemented by the sum of $57,682,800. I want to thank the Attorney General and the team from Judiciary. Head 06 Service Commission. Head 06 Service Commissions, a supplementation of $3 million. I will now invite the Minister of Public Administration to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes. Minister? Minister of Finance?
Well, it would appear that I would have to deal with this. I will, most certainly. We have some outstanding arrears to security providers. It's one of the items of goods and services we are handling. So we are supplementing the allocation for the Service Commission by $573,000 to allow them to pay arrears to security services. With respect to other contracted services of $2,427,000, the need for training has been identified for the cadre of permanent secretaries and deputy permanent secretaries. And this sum is intended to provide for that and allow for training of permanent secretaries and deputy permanent secretaries.
Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 06 Service Commissions be supplemented by the sum of $3 million. Member for Kamuto Mansanilla.
Thank you, Chair. Can the Honorable Minister indicate, state the security services provider for...
That can be provided for you. I don't have those details. I'll get them for you.
Okay.
Member for Tabakit.
Minister of Finance, you said that the under other contracted services, the 2.427 million, was for training for permanent secretaries. But when I look at it here, it says associated with assessment for permanent secretaries program and selection of deputy permanent secretaries.
Quite true.
Can you explain?
In order to assist the commission to select and assess permanent secretaries, it was deemed necessary to improve the training of these personnel so that you would not be putting them at a disadvantage in terms of when you're assessing them, they can always say they were not given the opportunity to perform the functions required of them. So the Service Commission has decided to train up this particular group of senior public servants to assist in the selection and assessment exercise.
Member for Tabakit.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it clear. You're saying that the Service Commission has decided to give them an opportunity to upgrade. Is that what you're saying?
To be trained.
To train. But then who's doing the assessment of the permanent secretaries and the selection of the deputy permanent secretaries?
Service Commission.
After they have trained them?
Ongoing process.
Which process? The process to do the job of a permanent secretary or the process for selecting a permanent secretary?
The ongoing process would be the training of the permanent secretaries and deputy permanent secretaries and their selection and assessment.
Member for Kamuto Mansanilla.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Minister, based on your response, can you provide further details on the assessment process for the permanent secretaries program, as well as the process involved in the selection
I will
of the
get
deputy?
that information from the Service Commission. This is a new item that they requested. They believe that this cadre of senior public servants is in need of training, leadership training in particular.
But can
Member
you also...
for Kamuto Mansanilla.
Thank you. Can you also then provide, Honorable Minister, the breakdown of the expenditure associated with the assessment as well?
The 2.4 million,
Yes.
I'll ask the Service Commission to provide that.
Thank you.
Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 06 Service Commissions be supplemented by the sum of $3 million. Those in favor say aye. Any against? I think the ayes have it. Head 06 Service Commissions has been supplemented by the sum of $3 million. Thank you, Minister, and thank you to the Service Commissions team. Head 13, Office of the Prime Minister. Head 13, Office of the Prime Minister, a supplementation of $12 million. I will now invite the Minister of State in the Office of the Prime Minister to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes. Minister.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are supplementing the allocation to improve the quality of services for children in Trinidad and Tobago. $6 million towards contribution to non-profit institution that would facilitate the payment per child system. That's where children and community residences are given financial support for their psychosocial needs, etc. And also $6 million for the Children's Authority to pay salaries and operational costs for 3 new facilities: Chaguanas Assessment Center, Tobago Assessment Center, and the Place of Safety in Tobago.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 13, Office of the Prime Minister, be supplemented by the sum of $12 million. Member for Princestown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, with respect to this particular line item for private community residences, can you advise how many children have been assigned to these private community residences that will benefit from this figure, one? And secondly, if you can advise on how many children these private residences are involved.
Okay.
So one, the children, and then how many residences?
Okay, so the children that would be at the private residences will be placed there through the Children's Authority. To date, we have 489 children at the different community residences who will benefit from the program. How many residences? 36. 36. I have the list if you want it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, to the Honourable Minister, the second line item 04007003 Children's Authority. Can the Honourable Minister indicate whether the sum reflected here represents outstanding arrears for the operationalizing costs for the three entities you indicated, or whether or not this is supplementary funding from now until the end of the financial year?
From now until the end of the financial year to facilitate recruitment of staff.
Okay, so there's no reflection of arrears here?
No.
Thank you.
Member for Kamuja Manzanella.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, line item 02000503. Can you provide a breakdown of the payment required by each private community residence? And also what mechanisms are in place to provide oversight of the private community residences that receive funding from the state, please?
Okay, apart from the Children's Authority monitoring the institutions, we have officers from the Office of the Prime Minister from the Monitoring and Evaluation Unit who are going to ensure that the funds actually go towards what they're supposed to go towards. And if you want, I will send the rest in writing.
Member for Tabakit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Minister, what, with respect to 040073 Children's Authority, can you tell us what are the oversight mechanisms that exist to ensure the Children's Authority is using the funds allocated to effectively achieve its mandate of providing care, protection, and rehabilitation of children, as well as, perhaps more importantly, investigating complaints with respect to children?
In terms of ensuring that there is oversight of the authority, I would have mentioned before, we have the officers from the Monitoring and Evaluation Unit of the Office of the Prime Minister. Apart from that, the authority, they themselves have their officers who go in to ensure that, the funds are being utilized the way it's supposed to be utilized, as well as there's recourse where the public could often call in to make complaints. And what's the second question you asked?
The complaints, investigating complaints with respect to children, how do you track that? That is being done?
The Children's Authority would be the agency that would track the complaints. What I was referring to when I said there's recourse to public, if someone has an issue and they think that the authority isn't dealing with the particular issue in the way it should be dealt with, people could often write to... You said stop.
No, okay.
Oh, okay.
Member for Tabakit, that's all right? You're finished? Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Minister, could the Minister state how many persons are currently employed at the Children's Authority? And further to that, I see that the numbers increased, so there's some significantly between 2017 and 2018. Has the number increased significantly to warrant that in terms of the number of persons employed?
Okay. Sure. Just now, Minister, I'm not sure what is the question. The question is the number of persons employed at the Children's Authority. Member for Couva South?
One, yes.
Yes.
At present, 225 persons are employed by the authority.
And what were the numbers in 2017 and 2018?
Member, I will not allow that, please. If you want to ask if it has changed within this fiscal year, I'll allow it.
Has it changed in this fiscal year?
Just for the Couva South, last year we have opened up 2 additional facilities in Sangre Grande as well as St. Madeleine, right?
I'm merely asking the numbers in terms of the movement in the fiscal year. I haven't gotten the numbers.
What exactly are you asking me?
I have asked.
Okay, Couva South. With this supplementation, we'll be recruiting 68 additional new positions. That would be for the Chaguanas Assessment Center, the Tobago Assessment Center, as well as the Place of Safety in Tobago. Additionally, last year we'd have opened up an assessment center in Sangre Grande and St. Madeleine.
All right, so there's an increase, so you are going to recruit 66 additional officers in 2019? And I am clarifying, Minister of Finance. And
Well-
also,
No, just 1 minute, member for Couva South. I think the minister was clear, so are you asking a further question?
no, I wasn't clear based on what the minister presented, so I'm seeking clarification.
I'm confused.
Am I entitled to seek clarification,
No,
Madam Chair?
I don't think that's the way we should ask it. You're always entitled to seek clarification. You're not
Yes.
entitled to regurgitate.
No, I'm not.
Okay? So the minister was very clear.
Madam Chair.
Member for Couva South, we are too early in this exercise, okay? The minister was very clear that they would be recruiting 60, I think I heard 68. I heard 68. I am sure that the mics are working properly in here. I'm pretty sure. Okay? So that if you want to ask a further question about that, fine. But I don't know that the question is to ask the minister again if it's 68.
Madam Chair, simply I wanted to know because we are seeking a supplementation or an increase, right, of 6 million. How many persons were employed before this was requested, and after you are requesting or seeking an increase of 6 million, how many will the employment numbers move to? Simple as that.
Couva South, before the 6 million, we had 200 and... Before the 6 million, we have 225 persons. The 6 million would facilitate the recruitment of 68 persons.
Thank you very much.
Sister?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, with respect to the same line item of the Children's Authority 04-007-03, does this figure reflect the existing organizational structure of the Children's Authority, or is this the creation of new positions or the organizational structural chart?
Minister.
You're referring to the 68? That would be for the new facilities, so it would be additional.
Yeah, but the question I'm trying to get is it new positions that will be created to facilitate the organization, or is it existing positions already?
New
positions,
yes.
Okay.
Member for Kamuto Manzanella.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, what operational costs does the Children's Authority incur annually?
Last year's operational cost was approximately $57 million.
Honorable Member for Caroni Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This sum is to facilitate the payment for children assigned to private community residences. First of all, how many private community residences we're talking about? And secondly, are they all registered?
Minister.
We're talking about 36 community residences, and all 36 are registered with the Children's Authority, because the children who are placed at these community residences are only done so through the authority.
Are there any unregistered residences that receive state funds?
But that, Madam Chairman, may I ask a question of relevance? We are asking about 6 million for private community residences registered. Is that question relevant that the minister just asked?
Member for Caroni Central. I think in terms of the answer, which is accounting for the increase, the minister has answered that these are for registered community residences. So that in terms of the allocation and what we're looking at, I would agree with the objection taken that it doesn't arise. But you're entitled to ask that question at another time in another way.
So can I take it as confirmed that they are all registered residences?
What the minister, I think, said to you is that the allocation will cover registered residences, and you asked how many there are, and there are 36. I don't know if it will cover all 36, but those were the questions you asked and the responses that were given.
Okay, so I will take it as confirmed that they are all registered.
For Colony Central, all community residences are registered with the authority. Authorities are aware of all community residences, right? However, there's a difference between being registered and being licensed. The authority is currently working with all of our facilities that aren't licensed to bring them up to standard to be licensed, but all are registered with the Children's Authority.
So some registered institutions may not be licensed.
Yeah.
But
She was asked.
The member already, Madam Chair.
no, I'm just.
I'll just allow Carney Central to ask the question as pertain to the details here.
No, Ma'am, I asked a simple, it's a yes or no answer. And I think the minister was willing to answer,
Relevant
but the
to
Minister
this-
of Finance.
is it
always
relevant to
Minister of
interferes in
Finance,
everybody's
1 minute,
business.
please. 1 minute, please. Minister of
Well,
Finance.
then you should not.
Let the minister answer for her own issue. It's a simple question.
Madam Chairman, could I get clarity on the question, please? I need clarity on the question.
I believe Carney, a member for Carney Central, you would ask if there are registered community residences that are not licensed.
I
Yes.
asked if some of the registered may not be
And-
licensed.
Yes, and I think that was clear from the answer, when the minister sought to give clarification. I think that was clear, because your question was about registration.
Yes, but I want to know. She said that there was a two-stage process, which I appreciate and understand, ma'am.
And she said that some are, not all that are registered are licensed, and the minister went on to explain that they are working to have all licensed. So I think the natural consequence of that is that some are registered that are not licensed.
But I don't know if some of them that they are working, who are registered in order to license them, are covered by the allocation here. And that is the issue for which we are gathered here.
Yeah, and I agree that's the issue we're gathered here, but I believe what the minister made very clear from the inception is that the allocation covers registered community residences, of which there
Including
are
unlicensed.
36.
Madam Chair, I can assist to put an end to this. May I assist the honourable member? When we passed the law, we amended the law to provide for grandfathering licensing. So it is covered by the Family and Children Division Act in the 5th schedule, which amended the community residences, both homes and otherwise, where we have provided for the ability to come up to license. So the allocation does cover both.
So
It's
the
in law.
allocation covers both, right? I was not questioning the law. I wanted to know the facts.
Member for Oropouche West.
Honorable Minister, I'm just following up with your question, your explanation. Honorable Minister?
Yes.
I'm following up with your explanation. You said some of the homes are not licensed. My simple question is, don't you think there will be a legal implication if something were to happen to those children who are housed there, if something were to happen to them, and they are not licensed?
I'm not going to allow that question. I'm not going to allow that question. Honorable members, The question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 13, Office of the Prime Minister, be supplemented by the sum of $12 million. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you, the team from the Ministry of the Office of the Prime Minister. Head 13, Office of the Prime Minister, has been supplemented by the sum of $12 million. Head 17, Personnel Department.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, by Cabinet.
Excuse me? 1 minute, please. One minute, please. Member for Port of Spain South? 1 minute, please. I have to put the question. What is going on? Head 17, Personnel Department, a supplementation of $2 million. I will now invite the Minister to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, in February of 2019, the Cabinet approved a lease rental for a period of 3 years of a building located at number 3 Alexandra Street, St. Clair, to accommodate the Personnel Department. Madam Chair, the $2 million now allocated to the Personnel Department is to facilitate the fit-out and occupation of the said building. Sorry. Yeah.
Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 17, Personnel Department, be supplemented by the sum of $2 million. Member for Faizabad.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, can you indicate whether the $2 million allocation is for the total outfitting or is it just part of the outfitting?
Minister.
Member for Faizabad, this would be part of it.
Can you
this
then,
would be part.
Sorry, thank you, Minister. Can you then indicate what exactly the $2 million is going to be used for?
Madam Chairman, let me assist here. The document is crystal clear that this is required to relocate the staff of the Personnel Department. That is on page 5 under the notes under Head 17. It is crystal clear that this building was procured to relocate the staff of the Personnel Department, and therefore it is obvious that this building will be used to house the staff of the Personnel Department. And just on an aside, $2 million is a fraction of what your government spent on the other building. You will spend $75 million on the building next door.
Finance. Minister of Finance, I think it's agreed here that we are only looking at 2019. Okay, so that I think we all have to be bound. Member for Cooper South, we both can't be speaking at the same time. So, Minister of Finance, I think we all have to be bound by that rule.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you for that information.
Member for Faizabad.
I understand, Minister. I was just trying to find out. I understand it's for the relocation of the staff, but I was asking in terms of what customization. Yeah, the breakdown.
I have the information here for you.
Thank you, Minister.
For the IT infrastructure, it would have cost something like about, I'd say about $1 million or 400,000. Actually, the server room, 200,000. Cords and access cables, 400,000. Then the build out of the office space is 800,000. Negotiation room, 200,000. That should give you a total of about $2 million.
Thank you.
So that by and large, that's what the $2 million is about.
Excellent. Madam Chair, just one more question. Minister, can you indicate how soon you expect the procurement process to start for this outfitting process?
I've just been advised that the RFP will be going on by the end of this month.
Thank you.
Member for Princess Town.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, on the same line item, could the Honourable Member for Port of Spain South confirm that this is a property that is shamelessly owned by the member for San Fernando West Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi?
And I would not allow that question. Member for Kumuto Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can the Honorable Minister indicate how is this new office building procured?
Excuse me?
Madam Chairman,
1 minute.
that question.
Member for Minister of Finance, would you please give me an opportunity? Member for Kumuto Manzanilla, again, by the rule by which we are bound, I'm not going to allow that question. Member for Oropouche East.
Thank you so very much, Madam Chair. To the gracious member for Port of Spain South. Could you tell us the total cost of outfitting the building?
Total cost, I've been advised, is estimated at $38 million. Far less than what you all paid.
And just remember,
Madam
whistling,
Speaker, Madam
whistling
Chair,
is not allowed. 1 minute, please. Remember, whistling is not allowed in here either. Yes, member for Oropouche.
Have we lifted the rule about going back?
Well, there's no, the rule about going back is in force. Okay?
I'm hearing something else.
No, all I heard is it is $38 million.
Okay.
And before, something else was chipped in, but somebody else also broke another rule. So I can only deal with them sequentially. Member for Tabakit. Thank you, ma'am.
Madam Chairman, the Honourable Minister said $2 million, but called ballpark figures, 200,000, 800,000, whatever. How did you arrive at these figures, exactly 200,000, 800,000, and so on? Were these based on a proper scope of works, a proper analysis of what is required, or is it that these figures were just thrown there to come up to $2 million without a proper scope of works? And is that scope of works available for purview?
Minister?
Certainly, Madam Chair, once these figures have been given to me by the department, I have all confidence that these figures are accurate and they would have been done in a proper manner, and it will be available at the shortest possible time.
Can the minister say whether she has seen the details that back up these figures at this stage? Is it available in written form, type form, that these are in fact the details?
Okay, so let me ask. The minister said she was, once these figures are given to her, she's confident. All right, so I guess she has seen. What you want to know, if it's in writing or if it was oral?
Yes.
Minister.
Madam Chair, I will make the figures available in due course.
Member for Kumuto Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, can you advise what were the procurement costs attached to attain this new office building?
What is it procurement? I don't understand that question.
But 1 minute. Member for Kumuto Manzanilla, I believe the minister indicated that the RFP will be going out later this week. So that I don't know that there's been any procurement as yet. Member for Couva South.
Thank you. Here to tell this meeting what is the cost of renting the existing facilities for the personnel department?
I will not allow that. This is not a figure on the rent.
Not relevant.
Minister of Finance.
Just getting a ruling.
Minister of Finance. Minister of Finance, I would like if we all respect our rules in here. Thank you very much. Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 17 Personnel Department be supplemented by the sum of $2 million. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Head 17 Personnel Department has been supplemented by the sum of $2 million. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, the team from the Personnel Department. Head 18, Ministry of Finance. Head 18, Ministry of Finance, a supplementation of $729,187,071. I will now invite the Minister of Finance to make a brief Opening statement not exceeding 5 minutes. Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. In 2018, but in this current fiscal year, actually in November 2018, are we all finished? Yes, in November 2018, Petrotrin was required to pay a significant sum in termination benefits to its employees, in excess of $2 billion. And they sought assistance from the Ministry of Finance for bridge financing, temporary financing, and we assisted them. We now have to replenish the vote that we took it from. It is allowed under the rules to move between the Infrastructure Development Fund and the Consolidated Fund. So we did the transfer, and we now have to replenish the Infrastructure Development Fund vote to the tune of $709 million. With respect to pensions and gratuities, we are simply asking for an additional $18 million to assist in payment of gratuities to contract officers.
Minister of Finance.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yes?
Yeah.
So we're just dealing with head 18. Are you finished, Minister of Finance, with respect to your opening statement? Are you finished? Minister of Finance, are you finished with your opening statement?
Yes.
Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for head 18, Minister of Finance, be supplemented by the sum of $729,187,071. Member for Tabakit.
Madam Chairman, I through you to the Minister. Minister, when this $709 million was taken out of the Infrastructure Development Fund to facilitate the financing of the exit costs with respect to Petrotrin, how did this affect the infrastructure development program of works? And have they been stymied? Have things been placed on the back burner? And can you explain whether this has affected the infrastructure development projects program?
Minister of Finance.
No, it did not affect it in any way. We had a balance in the fund. So we had sufficient additional funds in the Infrastructure Development Fund to continue with development works and also make a temporary transfer for this purpose. The Infrastructure Development Fund is a rolling fund and continues with a balance from year to year. So there was enough money in it to allow for this.
So you used the excesses for this fund for
It is
Petrotrin?
surplus existing at that time.
At that time. Wouldn't that have been more prudent in light of the fact that there's a problem with the economy and the construction sector to have used the money to stimulate the economy through the construction sector rather than using it this way?
Minister of Finance.
Madam Chairman, are we having a supporting cast from...
Minister of Finance, please answer the question.
Could I ask for that rule to be enforced, Madam Chairman? There's no banging of table, whistling, cheering, and so on.
Minister of Finance. Minister of Finance, that is done in a parliamentary setting. Please answer the question.
The requests for funding under the IDF have all been satisfied. There's a program of development works for the year. There's a schedule of development works, and the fund quite often will have far more money in it than is required in terms of requests for releases and the stage at which projects are at.
And Minister, following that...
So the answer to your question is no.
Following that question...
There was no requirement to release more money out of the Infrastructure Development Fund. Funds were released as requested and in accordance with project schedules.
So then can you say, Mr. Minister, what percentage of the Infrastructure Development Fund has so far therefore been utilized, given that you used the $709 million to date for the exit cost of the finance cost for Petrotrin?
This supplementation is simply to replenish the surplus in the fund. It has nothing to do with expenditure from the fund.
Okay, member for Caroni Central.
Yes, just a couple of questions, Madam Speaker. Would the minister be willing to provide a breakdown of the exit costs associated with the closure of Petrotrin? You don't need to do it now, but if we can have it.
Minister of Finance.
Well, that has been asked and answered in this parliament already by a number of questions to ministers. You know, that's in the public domain. So I will simply pull from the questions and answers.
Okay, I shall be grateful if you would provide it. And do you have an idea of the total cost associated with the closure of Petrotrin to date?
That, my opinion, and I will ask a ruling from the chair, does not apply to this supplementation.
And hadn't the Minister of Finance rushed to answer, I would have then determined. I don't allow it as a question under this. Member for Caroni East.
Madam Chair, I pose this question to the Minister. Is this 709 million a part of the exit costs? And if so, what is the total exit cost?
Again,
Minister of Finance, I believe that's the question that was just asked in another
But
formulation.
Madam Chair, we need the answer from the Minister.
Member for Caroni East, I'm not denying the fact that you may need
But
an
Madam
answer.
Chair, are you a...
Member for Caroni East, we both can't speak, we both can't, excuse me?
Are you attempting to answer the question for the Minister?
No, I'm not attempting to. Member for Caroni East. Member for Caroni. Member. And member for Caroni East. If you will give me an opportunity to respond, and then we either go on or you exercise your options. Before the minister is allowed to answer the question, I think the chairman has an opportunity to allow or disallow the answer. Okay?
I'm allowed 5 minutes to ask my question, Madam Chair. I haven't been given the opportunity to ask my question.
Member for Oropouche East. Member for Oropouche East. Member for Oropouche East. Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Member for Couva South. Member for Couva South.
Chair.
Objection heard. Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Minister. Minister, you spoke of a significant sum of $2+ billion and the need for bridge financing and so on. Does this sum fully take care of entitlements of former employees that would have received benefits via collective agreements and so on prior to the closure of Petrotrin?
Member for Couva South, I would not allow that question based on the exercise that we involve in. Member for Caroni East.
Minister of Finance, does this cost include the security cost that is being given now, that has to be paid now?
Madam Chairman, I know that I may be preempting something, but I simply wish to explain that all this is a replenishment of the Infrastructure Development Fund. It has nothing to do with any of those issues you are raising.
But you're using the infrastructure development for a specific purpose. And we're asking you, what is the specific purpose for utilization of the funds? And you have to give the answer.
Madam Chairman, again, I don't want to preempt anything you may wish to say. The wording, the text is clear. The sum is required to reimburse the Infrastructure Development Fund. It's a reimbursement, full stop.
But why was the money taken out of the Infrastructure Development Fund? To pay for what? You have to answer that. Yeah. You cannot use taxpayers' money without explaining.
5 minutes. Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for head. But I know I put down your name, but when I called your name, you didn't respond. No. Member for Oropouche East, your name was called before Couva South on 2 occasions, and there was no crosstalk. Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 18, Ministry of Finance, be supplemented by the sum of $729,187,071. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Head 18, Ministry of Finance, has been supplemented by the sum of $729,187,071. Thank you, Minister of Finance. Thank you, PS Ministry of Finance. Head 20. Head Minister, Member for Caroni East, Member for Caroni. And
been in Parliament longer than you have been. Yes, yes.
oh yeah,
I'm aware what transpires, and the Minister of State to give the answers to the question.
and Member for Caroni East, I would ask you, in fact, I'll caution you, just kind of exercise a degree of temperance so that we can continue. If not, then we will have to take a course that I really don't want to adopt. Head 20, Pensions and Gratuities. Head 20, Pensions and Gratuities, a supplementation of $18 million. I will now invite the Minister of Finance to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes.
Certainly, Madam.
Minister of Finance.
Certainly, Madam Chairman. This is simply to assist the Ministry of Finance in expediting payments of gratuities to retired public servants. And we are asking for supplementation of 18, with contract officers in particular, not public servants per se. We are asking for supplementation of $18 million to allow us to pay gratuities to contract officers. It's a burning issue.
Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 20, Pensions and Gratuities, be supplemented by the sum of $18 million. Member for Princestown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, with respect to this particular line item, can you advise how many officers will benefit from this 18 million? And also, you may not have the information at this time, but if you will give the undertaking to provide under the particular ministries or agencies.
As best as is possible, we'll provide that information, the numbers and the distribution.
At this time, do you have a total number
No, I
of how
don't
many
have it.
officers will
I don't
benefit?
have it,
No.
but we'll provide it for you.
Member for Kamuta Manzanilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, would this allocation be used to cover any backlogs who are owed gratuity? Persons who are outstanding for quite some time, retroactive.
This ipso facto deals with arrears.
How many persons?
That was already asked.
Can
And I said I would provide the information.
Member for Chaguanas East.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, given this additional sums of money, can you indicate what will be the waiting time for people to receive the gratuity payments?
Minister of Finance.
I can't give you that information now. Well, all I can say, it has been considerably reduced, but in the debate, perhaps I can address that.
Member for Naparima.
Thank you. Minister, the number of people retired and the number of people entitled to gratuities are there. It exists. If that is correct, why are we not able to predict accurately what is required in any fiscal year, any budget year, and why the need for this supplemental allocation? If we knew in that there are X number of people retiring, and which would require payments of so many millions of dollars, why that figure cannot be accurately projected at the beginning of the year?
Are you finished?
Yes.
We don't know, because the payment of gratuity is based on reconciliation of pension and leave records, which can sometimes take years, because people have moved from one department of government to another, from ministry to ministry. And quite often there are gaps in the records. So we can only estimate. Yes, we know when people are retiring, but we can only estimate when their records will be updated. That has happened even to parliamentarians here.
Yeah, I know this crosses different governments. But why it is, if we know someone is retiring next year, I'm 59, I'm going on 60, why do we have to wait for the person to retire and then go through the ordeal of reconciling their entitlements and where they worked, etc. Why can't we not anticipate it before, so that when the person retires, like in certain countries, which I wouldn't call, it's seamless. You leave today, and you get your check the next day.
This is one of the reasons why we've introduced the innovation, for example, of the minimum pension of $3,500 immediately on retirement. It's not as simple as you make out. The person actually has to apply for the gratuity and present whatever missing records there are that are in their possession. It's not as simple as you think it is. We are not as efficient as that as a country. It happens to everyone. I said it happens to members of parliament who have moved from ministries to ministry and found that even in other governments, their records were not properly kept. We are making tremendous strides in improving it, but it is not as simple as it may appear to be.
Member for Point of Order.
Madam Chair. Minister, in 2019 estimated budget, it was estimated $115 million. And now you're asking for an increase of $18 million. Is it fair to say that that $150 million has already been used up for the year?
No. This is what we estimate this is what we will need for the balance of the year. And in fact, ironically, the reason why we need supplementation is because of improvement of efficiency. So more and more people are qualifying for gratuity payments in terms of their records. So we're because of our efficiency, and we're moving faster than anticipated, we need a supplementation.
Member for Princestown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Honourable Minister. Minister, while I understand that you may not be able to give us the exact figures at this time, based on the amount of persons who would have qualified for gratuity and so on at the end of the last financial year, can you give us an idea of, in terms of percentage of what would have existed at the end of last financial year in terms of figures, how many of those persons will be affected? Is it the majority, 50%, 75%?
Information together with the other information.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister, you continue to focus on efficiency and so on. And will this cover all the persons who will qualify for gratuity and benefits in fiscal 2019?
I just made the point that it is impossible to determine with any degree of absolute accuracy as to exactly who and how many persons will be eligible for payment of the gratuity, because there are a number of factors, most notably gaps and missing parts of the pension and leave records, and therefore this is the best estimate based on available data of the supplementation that will be required.
Honourable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 20, pensions and gratuities, be supplemented by the sum of $18 million. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Head 20, pensions and gratuities, be supplemented by the sum of $18 million. Thank you again, Minister of Finance. Thank you to the PS and the Ministry of Finance. Head 22.
Chairman, I have a request from the Minister of National Security, who has been called away on urgent national business. If we could just skip national security for a little while until he returns. If all that, right, I crave your indulgence.
All right. So, members, yeah, member for Orupuchis.
Thank you very much, ma'am. But could the Minister also indicate when the Minister of National Security may be available to us?
He will be back soon, but certainly before we get to the end of the exercise, he'll be back.
Okay, so it's agreed that we'll defer Head 22 for later consideration. Head 23, Ministry of the Attorney General. Head 23, Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs, a supplementation of $50 million. I will now invite the Attorney General to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes. Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, the Ministry of the Attorney General under Head 23 is requesting a supplementation of appropriation of the sum of $50 million as set out in the documents. Falls under general administration, specifically under legal fees. If I could explain, Madam Speaker, the exercise of legal fees is a continuum. As at September 2015, the Ministry of the Attorney General had spent $444,444,197.16, being a subtotal of approximately $1.4 billion in a whole of government expenditure, largely conducted by the AG's office. Out of that $1.4 billion, and the precise figure I can actually provide as well. Out of that $1.4 billion, and specifically down at the AG's office, we were left with an arrears of $137,128,741 million, so approximately $137 million of arrears. We have been managing, Madam Speaker, with approximately a utilization of, at lowest, 34% of the budget of the previous government, and at highest 58% of the year-on-year. This $50 million, therefore, is required to settle arrears that is owing. So the AG's office, having spent in the period 2010 to 2015, $444 million in legal fees, being a subset of $1.4 billion in legal fees, left the incoming government with approximately $137 million of arrears. There's a statutory period of limitation with respect to legal fees. Obviously, it's a 4-year limitation period. And whilst the ministry was conducting a value for audit exercise on the expenditure of legal fees and discovered very serious matters, we are now compelled to begin the exercise of settling vouched and bona fide legal fees, as opposed to those which are under investigation or which have been set aside. That is the rationale for this increase in expenditure.
Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 23, Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs, be supplemented by the sum of $50 million. Member for Oropouche East.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Just to the Attorney General, just for clarity first, could you just clarify for us, you said as of September 2015, $1.4 billion was spent. Was it by the Ministry of the Attorney General, and over what period of time?
Sure. In the period 2010 to 2015, the sum of $1.4 billion was spent by the government across all of the ministries and statutory enterprises. The Attorney General's office had conduct of the vast majority of those expenses. For example, Petrotrin, Udicot, UTT, E-Tech, TNTech. The then Attorney General took conduct of matters actually in breach of the law and had the mind and management of the AG's office and directed the expenses. So the whole of government expenditure was $1.4 billion. The AG's office itself spent $444 million. Of that $444 million, that was the actual expenditure. The then AG also left a debt of $137 million. So in the period 2010 to 2015, it was approximately $600 million at the AG's office, taking the gross figure for the whole of government to approximately $1.6 billion. What we did is a value for money audit, and we separated out expenses which were possibly fraudulent, and we have referred those matters to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and there are other matters that are into as well.
Member for Oropouche East.
Let's continue for a moment. Mr. Attorney General, do you have by any chance any figure for the whole of government expenditure on legal fees from 2015 to 2019 or thereabouts?
I will not allow that because we're talking about the Ministry of Attorney General and Legal Affairs.
But, ma'am, the Attorney General was kind enough to tell us the whole of government for the period before.
That is all right.
I'm just inquiring as to the whole of government,
Right.
Madam, for the period after.
Minister of Finance,
ruling, please.
Minister of Finance, please. Member for Oropouche East, I'm not allowing that. Do you want to ask another question? Please do.
Then I would move on. Attorney General, you said $50 million to pay some fees that you have investigated and clearly believed to be bona fide and proper. Would you be kind enough to give us some type of breakdown as to the allocation of this $50 million?
Sure. I can tell you that it also includes fees to be paid to the DPP's office In 2017, we separated out the DPP's expenditure from the AG's expenditure, ring-fencing the expenses of the DPP. What we've been doing, on some years, we've given the DPP approximately 80% of our expenditure for fees, and at lowest, 50% of the expenditure. So some of those figures include litigation, prosecutions, which the DPP is paying. But what I can tell you is the vast majority of fees that we have proposed to settle are fees in respect of which we've been sued upon, or there's been taxation by a court, or there's been a settlement by way of an accounting exercise. So I don't have a precise figure yet. It will materialize as those pots become certain, either through taxation at the court, judgments which are rendered against us, or matters which are settled by way of the accounting division doing it. So regrettably, I don't yet have that settled figure.
Could I also ask you to ponder, if not give the exact detail, as to whether this outstanding figure would include any payments vis-a-vis the outstanding CLICO matter?
Yes, they certainly do.
And that therefore means that the CLICO matter would continue in excess of the figure that you gave the House some time ago.
Yes, they certainly
and continues into the foreseeable future.
Yes, but what I can tell you is that the special prosecution unit that has been assembled to treat with white-collar aspects, I'm informed by them that they are very close to treating with that matter in final form.
Could you just indicate the special prosecution unit in the Ministry of the Attorney General?
No, sir, not
in
in
the
the
commissioners or in the DPP?
The DPP. So the DPP...
So that unit is treating with the CLICO matter.
It's the
and we
DPP
expect,
in combination, sorry to interrupt you, it's the DPP in combination with the TTPS
Okay.
and their reformulated unit.
and there's some idea that that matter may come to an end given the expenditure, public expenditure.
I just don't want this to end up being a discussion about the CLICO matter. I allowed your original questions in the context of the fees aspect. Member for Oropuch West.
Thank you. Honorable AG, if you were to disaggregate those fees, would those fees cover forensic investigations and legal opinions, or even to pay foreign witnesses and so? Would it cover those?
Those fees you're talking about
Yeah.
are what, the 50 million?
That's
There
correct.
is, yes.
Those fees are to cover all expenses, and expenses and legal fees include disbursements, and disbursements for forensic evidence, etc., are always part of certain matters. So the answer is yes.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Madam Chair. AJ, could you inform this meeting if the fees that you have alluded to takes into consideration any external advice or in relation to a matter involving a former employee at the Ministry of Sport?
External advice?
Yeah.
The Attorney General's office was not involved in that matter, as you know.
At no point in time the Attorney General's office was involved in that matter.
Excuse me, I only allowed the question in the context of if the arrears includes that. The answer was they weren't involved. Member for Caroni East.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Attorney General, would it be possible for you to provide a disaggregation of the fees in terms of what is for forensic investigation, what is for local attorneys, what is for foreign attorneys? And is this 85 million the total amount that is going to be paid for 2019?
Madam Chair, whilst I'm minded to want to do that, I've got to be very careful because there's active investigation and criminal investigation afoot. What I can tell you is that 12 people alone in the period 2010 to 2015
You're going back there, we didn't ask.
consumed $290 million of expenses, 12 lawyers alone. And there is, as the population is aware, and I want to be very careful, there's an ongoing matter that is being investigated, and there are further investigations and matters to come. So I wouldn't want to disturb what the TTPS is engaged in.
No, I'm just asking for 2019. Is the 85 million the total figure for expenditure by the Attorney General for fees for 2019? And if so, would it be possible to give us, we don't asking for names, but a disaggregation in terms of local attorneys, foreign attorneys, and forensic investigators?
If it was devoid of particulars, yes, we could.
And you would?
Yes, of course.
All right.
So what you're asking for in respect of the 50 million on the table here
Or the 85
is...
million?
No, but, and I was going to intervene except that Attorney General answered, but the figure we are looking here is $50 million.
But to bring it to 85 million, Madam Chair.
I will allow the question in terms of the $50 million.
All right, so AG, would you be?
So could I just have clarity as to what you want? So with respect to the item of $50 million.
Yeah, the disaggregation in terms of forensic.
Right. So
fees,
what I
local
indicated,
attorneys.
Madam Chair, is that I couldn't provide that. I'm going back to something I've said previously.
No, but you go
because
back to 2010 to 2015.
No, I'll explain
I'm
why.
simply asking you.
I'll explain why. Don't get too anxious. Don't get too concerned. The position is the matters relate to arrears in respect of DPP and AG's debts left, and which are now coming to book right now.
Okay.
That arrears is being managed in an exercise of value for money audit, which has resulted in reference to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. It also involves other matters that will come depending upon what action the TTPS takes. In respect of the value for money audit, I indicated to the member for Oropouche East a short while ago that there is an exercise where some people have approached the court and sued for their legal fees. Some of those are in the process of taxation. Some of them are being done by accountants in between verifying the exercise. So we don't have a specific figure. We estimate that the 50 million will begin to take care of our arrears which are not in issue. So I don't have a specific sum yet that I can give because that exercise is yet to be crystallized. Okay. And the caution that I'm offering is that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is engaged in an exercise for further action.
So the 50 million is not conclusive as yet?
It's an estimated figure to allow us to take care of the expenses that will come at us.
All right.
For Couva South?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, to the Attorney General. Attorney General, out of this 50 million, there's no, could you tell us if there was any allocation for legal fees at the Ministry of Sport in relation to a sexual harassment case?
And I believe that question was asked already.
Madam Chair,
and a ruling was given
this is Head
on
23.
that question. Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 23, Ministry of Attorney General and Legal Affairs, be supplemented by the sum of $50 million. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Head 23, Ministry of Attorney General and Legal Affairs, has been supplemented by the sum of $50 million. I thank the Attorney General and the team from his ministry. Can we now revert to Head 22? I see the Minister of National Security is here. Head 22, Ministry of National Security. Head 22, Ministry of National Security, a supplementation of $207 million. I will now invite the Minister of National Security to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes. Minister of National Security.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, as the country knows, the Ministry of National Security is the ministry charged with the responsibility of working with the various arms of law enforcement, immigration, probation officers or fire services, or lifeguards, or Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, intelligence services, and other bodies that so constitutionally charged with the responsibility of safeguarding and making more secure Trinidad and Tobago for our residents, our citizens, and those visitors here. The various bodies and the men and women who serve in national security, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank them for their dedicated service, in particular the agencies that have been working overtime for us to try and make Trinidad and Tobago a more safe and secure country. That's the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Defense Force, immigration, the probation officers, or fire services, or prison services, the lifeguards, and also the administrative staff at the Ministry of National Security. Thank you.
Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 22, Ministry of National Security be supplemented by the sum of $207 million. Member for Urupuch East.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And may I also, as one of the two shadow ministers of national security, thank those in the protective services and law enforcement for their service to this country, the police service, the defense force, immigration, and the other units that the minister routinely identifies in the House. I would also like to thank them for their service and congratulate them on their work. And anytime he does that, I will thank as well. Madam Speaker, the matter here concerning the CCTV camera, just a few quick questions on this. And Madam Speaker, while I'm on it, am I permitted to ask questions on the other subheads within national security, Madam Chair?
Once they're covered by this.
Yes, of course.
Supplementation.
Thank you. Minister, I know there was some troubling aspects involving the continuation of contract arrangements with the TSTT over CCTV cameras. Some of those issues reared its head last year, I believe it was. Can I ask if that matter has been sought out with a new contract for a new provider? Because I recall that you indicated in the House that we were on a month-to-month contractual arrangement involving the same terms and conditions with TSTT, but you had to come to an end of that process, and there were a few problems, I believe. But could we inquire first whether that has been sorted out, and if so, who is the new provider of CCTV coverage and services to the Ministry of National Security, and what are the new terms and conditions that have been arrived at? That would be my first issue,
All right,
and I'll have a second question.
So let me make sure that I understand before I call on the minister. You're really asking if this 124,000
million.
This $124 million is to pay monies under that month-to-month
Correct.
contract? Minister.
That's the question to answer, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, the answer to that question is, as I had indicated previously, the terms and conditions with respect to how TSTT has provided this CCTV camera service are not agreed between the Ministry of National Security and TSTT. There is to be a meeting between ourselves to try and work out, let me say, mutually acceptable terms with the CCTV camera footage. So this sum of money is being provided in the event that we come to an agreement for the provision of those services by TSTT that are currently in dispute.
Member for Urupuch.
Thank you very much. Mr. Minister, bearing in mind it was about 5 to 6 months ago this matter was raised, could you indicate within reason what would be the troubling problems that would have the ministry for such a long time still unable to bring finalization to this matter?
Absolutely. Ma'am, as I'm sure the member for Urupuch East would be well aware, being involved in some litigation himself, these matters are never resolved. When there's dispute and there's disagreement between two parties, it's not easily resolved in a short period of time. I am hoping that we would avoid litigation. I'm going to agree to meet with TSTT in the not too distant future. And until that time, the parties have not come to a settlement.
So, Minister, could I just be very clear on what you're saying? The matter is not in litigation. It is before litigation. The matters you're arising to, I was sued by both the government and Diego Martin West, so it is in the court. So it will take long.
That's not the matter I was talking about.
But what I'm saying is I'm aware of litigation taking long, but you are saying with TSTT, you are not at the courthouse. There's no litigation. But before that is taking long even to meet and discuss and agree and settle. Because at this time, you must correct us if we are wrong, there is no litigation between the Ministry of National Security and TSTT. You are before that, and that is taking a substantial amount of time, and I'm asking why.
Madam Speaker, again, there are a number of questions in there.
The one question is really why it's taking so long.
All right. Madam Speaker, Madam Chair, the point that I was making is when parties are having disputes and when parties are not seeing eye to eye, in particularly with respect to this, as happens when you're in court, for example, or even before you get to court with some matters, the parties have to sit, they have to discuss, they have to negotiate, and that process will commence, and it has not as yet reached in a settlement.
Madam Speaker, I'll leave it at that point, and I'll take it up on another occasion. My second question to the Minister would be concerning the Strategic Services Agency. There's a reference here to replenish funds to the Strategic Service Agency, which was utilized to settle a civil court matter. Now, this is the document presented to us by the government and the Minister of Finance. To replenish funds from what? Where did you get the funds from? And you're replenishing the Strategic Services Agency. And what was the civil court matter involving $44 million simply done?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to explain to the country why the taxpayers have to pay out this sum of money and perhaps some more. Towards the end of the last administration, around 2014, two particular helicopter contracts were entered into in very suspicious circumstances by the former administration. In fact, what we've found when we've gone to investigate it now is that there may not have been proper approval. There certainly wasn't cabinet approval for the entering into these two helicopter contracts. In fact, I want the people of Trinidad and Tobago to know that under the former administration, they entered into these contracts for two helicopters. One never even came to Trinidad and Tobago because the certificates for it to leave Delaware in the United States to come to Trinidad and Tobago could not be provided. It cost the taxpayers of Trinidad and Tobago hundreds of thousands of US dollars every month. They could not even utilize the helicopters. This one that was provided to the NOC by the former administration ran out of having a license within a few months upon arrival here. So by November of 2015, it was no longer licensed to fly in Trinidad and Tobago, but the terms of the contract were the most onerous terms as an attorney I've ever seen entered into. It provided for no termination by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. If we terminated, we had to take the helicopter and pay the full cost of the helicopter. This particular helicopter that was cast on the shoulders and burdened the NOC and then later on the SSA had no maintenance contract. The then Attorney General actually put on writing and on record legal advice that they can proceed with this contract and a waiver of the jurisdiction. So even when we were sued now by this company in the courts of New York, they held up the former Attorney General's letter that said, well, hold on, you can't waive your government jurisdiction. So we found ourselves getting legal advice from Freshfields, some of the best international lawyers, and they basically told us that they have the government of Trinidad and Tobago, by extension, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, had absolutely no defense to this contract that was entered into by the former administration. So this sum of money, Madam Speaker, unfortunately, $44 million that could be better utilized, in my humble opinion, elsewhere, we're burdened with due to one of these contracts entered into towards the end of an administration prior to 2015. Another gift from them.
Madam Speaker, just to follow up, I would be equally briefed as the Minister was. It is not my intention to enter a debate in the committee, but I'm extremely happy that the Minister has gone on record to explain that matter in the way that he did. And I would intend on the next occasion when it is proper to have a debate. My question would be, could the member be more specific by which civil court matter? Was it a determination of the court, or was it that the government, with the expert advice that you have indicated, including your own expert advice, as you said, as attorney yourself, did you settle due to a ruling of a court, or did you settle bilaterally between the government and the companies in question?
Madam
That's
Speaker,
all I ask.
just to
I don't want to
correct the
encourage a
record,
debate.
I never said, and I don't want it to be said, that I gave any legal advice in this matter.
Madam Speaker, the record will reflect the Minister say, as a lawyer, when I looked at that,
Madam Speaker,
I thought it was bad.
as a lawyer, when I look at...
Little order. Member for Urupuch East, you asked a question, and I think the Minister of National Security should be allowed the time. I would also, if you wish to ask another question, do so when that time arises. Minister of National Security.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the answer is proceedings were brought against the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. In particular, in this instance, it was against the Minister of National Security of Trinidad and Tobago by the company that had leased, in inverted commas, the helicopter to the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago in the courts of New York. I can't remember which district court it was. My recollection is the claim was for 16 or 18 million US dollars. There was then legal advice provided by Freshfields to settle the matter because we had absolutely no defense. Negotiations took place and the matter was eventually settled.
Member for Gonas East.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I want to ask questions with respect to the item on janitorial services as well as the CCC. With respect to the first one, the janitorial services, will the minister be able to explain the substantial increase, which is identified as almost 5 times higher than the estimate in terms of the outstanding bills?
Yes. Yes, please, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is a particular expense that the fire services have incurred to MTS for the period 2013 to 2018. So this is for payment of invoices incurred by the fire services for a period of 5 years. And what they're looking to do now is liquidate the outstanding amounts owed by the fire services to MTS for the period 2013 to 2018.
This will totally clear, will this totally clear the indebtedness to MTS? Or will there be a residual?
Yes, it will totally clear it.
Okay. Madam Speaker,
Yes, please.
Yeah. With respect to the Civilian Conservation Corps, this sum is required to facilitate the continuation of the program for this specific period of July to September. Honourable Minister, will you be able to say how many members of staff are on this project, how many trainees there are, and the operational cost of the staff and those for the trainees, that this money will be utilized to ensure its continuity?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, the Cabinet recently took a decision to continue the CCC program. So this sum of money is required to fund the program for the last quarter of this fiscal year, as you identified. The projected expenditure for fiscal 2019 is $39,357,700. And currently, this amount, this $12 million, would go towards the paying of a stipend of $90 a day to 80 trainees, the salaries to staff, as well as other related costs. There are 55 assistant team commanders. There are 21 junior team commanders. There are 11 team supervisors. Those are the staff to be covered. The clothing and equipment will be about $332,589. Utilities, $337,133. Accommodation, $280,250. Training costs would be $1.8 million. Food at the institution estimated to be about $1,120,000. Other expenses, which would be repairs, maintenance of vehicles, buildings, equipment, stationery, materials, and supply, $860,805. And that covers the whole $12 million.
Okay. Thank you very much. Honourable Minister, will you be kind enough to indicate to us what is the cost per trainee? And if you can also indicate to us what is the ratio of staff to trainee?
Yeah. Overburdened.
The cost per trainee is $4.7 million. That's how much the stipend cost would be. Of course, if you take the 800 and then you divide it into the overall cost of the program, that would give you, I don't know which cost per trainee you're talking about. The stipend cost works out to $4.7 million, but then You can divide the 800 into the 12 million, and those costs I've just said that work out the total, the 12 million. I'll give you the cost program per trainee. And then what was the other question?
The other one is the staff to trainee ratio.
All right, it's 800 trainees. You have 71, 82 staff to 800 trainees.
So that's a 1 to 10?
Yeah, about a 1 to 10 ratio.
Okay.
Kuvan North. Member for Caroni Central.
Questions. One, why wasn't the amount for TSTT budgeted? Is there any reason for that we have to now come and ask for the money?
Who said it wasn't budgeted? This is an addition.
There was a budget. This is a supplementation.
I don't think so, no, Minister. I don't have all the documents here to check, but I don't think
I'll go
so.
and check it quick.
Member for Caroni Central, I'll allow you an opportunity to rephrase your question when you have whatever support you need. Member for Naparima.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Respect of the capital expenditure, 7 million, acquisition of naval vessels. Sum is required to fund the service contract for repairs and maintenance of the Damen vessels utilized by the Trinidad Coast Guard. But before I do that, may I, as the second MP, Shadow MP for National Security, congratulate the officers of the Immigration Department, the Coast Guard, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Fire Service, and the Regiment, operating under trying circumstances and
Chairman,
severely
police service is
under-resourced. I
not
have
part
5
of
minutes.
this.
I have 5 minutes.
Diego Martin Northeast, please allow the member to make his contribution. He has 5 minutes on every intervention, and so would you. Yes, member for Naparima.
Even though they operate in a situation where they are severely under-resourced. Nevertheless, I'd like to ask the minister, how many Damen vessels are utilized by the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guards? How many are in operation right now, or operational? And will this mean that all the vessels will be functional when this sum is allocated and given effect to?
Yeah, with the greatest of respect. That was 3 questions to the end of the 5-minute statement. So I'd like some guidance as to exactly what I'm supposed
Right.
to
How many vessels will this relate to?
Madam Speaker, first of all, I'd like to state that the members of the various arms of national security are well aware of how long it's taken for these hollow words of appreciation to come from the opposite bench. And it is great to know
And you
that is the proposed Minister of National Security. I think we've just won the election. Madam Chair, with the greatest of respect, this $7 million is for the acquisition of naval vessels. This $7 million is for the acquisition. Okay, this is, it's for the repairs and maintenance of the Damen vessels. There's one Damen vessel currently in Curacao being dry docked and receiving repairs. The rest are being utilized. In fact, within the past month or so, we have made sure that even though some of them may have some issues, all have been ordered to be utilized in whatever way they can be. And I don't want to get into the specifics as to where they're deployed and how they're being utilized.
Okay, I think.
Chair, I asked a specific question. How many Damen vessels does this relate to? 5, 10, 15?
Well, that might explain the sum of money because we only bought 6 Damen vessels. So the fact that they are saying that they paid the price for 5, 10, or 15 would explain the exorbitant amounts of money expended.
Madam Speaker,
Okay.
This is what?
So, a member, what was asked is this, how many vessels would the supplemental sum relate to?
Two.
To two.
Also tell us how many of the Damon 6 vessels, how many of them are operational, since we are getting reports that many of them are tied up for want of fuel, etc. How many are operational?
Madam Speaker, as I said in the answer to the previous question, 5 of them are operational. Just because a vessel is moored does not mean that it is not being utilized in operations. Vessels have to come in to refuel, to change crew, to get supplies, etc. All of the available vessels, that is the 5, are being utilized by the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard, and there is no issue with respect to them being able to be refueled.
Minister, it's good to know that all the vessels are being utilized to protect our porous borders. But thank you very much for that.
OPVs
And
would have
words of
helped.
comfort. I refer to the Civilian Conservation Corps, and I see here a note is respected to the $12 million. A note, the sum is required to facilitate the continuation of the Civilian Conservation Corps program for the period July to September. And you said that Cabinet recently took a decision to facilitate the continuation of the program. And the question I ask is, at the beginning of the fiscal year, was there a plan for it not to continue? And this something came up which allowed us to now continue the program.
No, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, being a responsible administration, one of the things that we had asked be done, and it was actually being done by the former minister, by Minister Dillon, and I'd like to thank him for the work he did, was we wanted a tracer study done. Because we believe in value for money, and we wanted to make sure that if there was going to be the continuation of expenditure on the program, we would be able to have a study that traced whether persons who had gone through the program found it was a good program, what were the benefits, etc. So that tracer study was being done, as well as a value for money analysis, which included looking at the number of teachers, the number of supervisors for the program, and we actually reduced the number to ensure the proper value for money.
Member for Oropuch West. Member for Kamuto Mansinala. Okay, member for Caroni East.
Yeah, just a clarification, Minister, on the issue of the outstanding bills to TSTT. Would this 124 million completely cover all outstanding bills to TSTT? And
I think, member, just in the interest of time, that question was answered when the minister said that this sum is a sum that they put there in the event they have to pay. Okay?
No, but
He
just
explained the whole scenario and
Okay.
said that this allocation is allowed in the event they have
I must
to
have
pay.
missed that, but is the contract with TSTT completed, ceased or halted now, or is it still ongoing?
Madam Speaker, TSTT continues to provide the service. It's the terms and conditions under which they provide the service that are to be negotiated between the parties.
So there's no new entry? No, okay.
Member for Kamuto Mansinala.
My questions were answered already, ma'am. Thank you.
Member for Oropuch East.
Madam Speaker, my question was asked and unanswered.
Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 22, Ministry of National Security, be supplemented by the sum of $207 million. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Head 22, Ministry of National Security, has been supplemented by the sum of $207 million. Thank you, Minister of National Security. Thank you, PS, and the team from Ministry of National Security. Members, might I ask if we go to Head 42, we will revert to the other heads. The reason is that I think we all know that we're in the month of Ramadan. And it's just to facilitate the Honorable Minister meeting his religious observances. Head 42, Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. Head 42, Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, a supplementation of $39 million. I will now invite the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes. Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. and I am pleased to be here at the Standing Finance Committee to answer whatever questions and that you all might have. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 42, Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, be supplemented by the sum of $39 million. Member for Princestown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, line item 06000536, the Princestown Regional Corporation. Could the Minister confirm that this allocation of $2.5 million, as identified as the sum that is required to meet the wages and COLA goods and services, including scavenging for the provision of water trucking services and rent at the Municipal Corporation of the Princestown Regional Corporation with respect to $2.5 million, is indeed for arrears or for supplemental funding for the period that we are in of May till September, or is this for arrears?
Minister.
This is supplemental. Supplemental.
Minister, are you then saying that this $2.5 million is for supplemental for water trucking services, scavenging, and rental when councillors have been evicted? The corporation is currently being told that they too will be evicted if they have not paid the arrears. So therefore, you are saying that this will take care of from now until the end of the financial year. But from January 2019 till now, councillors are being evicted, the corporation is being evicted. There's no no funding for water because the suppliers are in arrears in terms of their payments.
Remember, these funds will be adequate till the end of the financial year.
Minister, are you saying that this will take care of the arrears and supplemental funding that will be needed from now until the end of the financial year? Because right now there's an arrears of $3.5 million and a request for supplemental funding of $3 million, which takes us to a total of $6.5 million needed for basic commodities like water and scavenging. But right now, I'm only seeing a figure reflected of $2.5 million. So is the minister saying that he is unaware that there is a request for supplemental funding of $3 million and arrears of $3.5 million, which totals $6.5 million needed by the Princeton Regional Corporation to fulfill their mandate until the end of the financial year?
Minister.
Okay.
So the issue
Yeah. Yeah. Remember, the amount they requested was $3.138,450. They got 2.5.
Minister, can you say this is if this is for arrears, and when did they get that, and when was the request made?
This 2.5 will be made available. I know what you're saying.
Minister, you just told me that. Sorry, ma'am. Go ahead, Minister. Sorry.
Yeah. As I said, this request was made. This is the sum we got, and this is the amount that will take us to the end of the financial year.
And this figure of 2.5 million will take care of the arrears.
Yes.
But Honorable Minister, the arrears is 3-point-something million. The minister just said that.
One minute, Minister, an opportunity to answer. He's consulting.
Sure.
We have been advised also that we have funding, just haven't been released as yet. And that will take care of all the arrears and so on.
Minister, with all due respect, you provided a very convoluted answer.
And we have virements and transfers.
Minister, could you tell me at this point how much is the arrears?
I don't have the correct figure right now.
So you don't know what is the arrears, but you're telling me that it will take care of the arrears, but it will also take care of the supplemental funding needed from now till the end of the financial year.
1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, please. I think, Member for Princestown, what you have already got established is that, what I understood the minister to explain just now, is that they've made certain allowances for some of the areas, but the releases just haven't taken place as yet. I think that's what the minister said. He also said that there will be violence, but this 2.5 supplemental will take care of whatever is outstanding based on your figures. I believe that's what he's saying to you. That's what I heard him say.
Thank you, but I'm taking the minister for his own words, where he told me that it will take care of the arrears and it will take care of the supplemental funding needed from now until the end of the financial year. However, the minister's figures are not adding up, and it's not adding up in terms of what is reflected here that is needed. But I will move on, Madam. Madam, the second question that I'd like the Honourable Minister to answer is whether the contracts for scavenging and water trucking services, which were terminated last month, because the funding for that has been totally exhausted. What is the contingency plan for that going forward from now until the end of the financial year? Because as I understand it, the request is sitting on the minister's desk for a few months now.
Once we get the releases will be paid to the corporations, all the corporations. And the request is being made through the Ministry of Local Government to the Ministry of Finance.
So, Minister, are you saying that for about 2 or 3 months now, which the application was made for the funding to your ministry, that it is now with the Ministry of Finance, and while the grass is growing, the horse is starving, literally, because the corporation has exhausted their funding and they are waiting 2 or 3 months for supplemental funding? So I just wanted to make sure I have that correct.
So what is the question?
That it is with the Ministry of Finance now. The minister just indicated that he has received the application for supplemental funding, but the representation is being made at Ministry of Finance.
No. We are dealing here with supplementary funding for the Ministry of Rural Development. That's what we're dealing with.
Right.
Not anything else.
Right. Madam, one more question.
Yes.
Honourable Minister, can you say whether you are satisfied that line item 06000336 that represents supplemental funding and arrears for basic commodities like water and scavenging, that we are at this point, are you satisfied that under another heading, when you look at Ministry of CARICOM Affairs, that $7 million is allocated for luxury vehicles and for property?
Member for Princestown, and when the question is so wide, I don't want to use your word convoluted, then we don't know what the question is. So I am going to limit you to within head 42, whatever question it is you want to ask, I believe, but I'm not limiting you to that. I believe you on 06000536.
Madam, I'll be very succinct.
Yes.
Is the minister satisfied? Is the minister satisfied that government priority is being placed on vehicles and properties and so on, that the basic commodities are not being met? Is the minister satisfied with that arrangement and that prioritizing?
I would not allow that question. Member for Naparimo. Member for Couva South.
Madam Speaker. Minister, the $4 million allocation for allowances to monthly paid officers, when these 220 municipal police officers were recruited?
They started in March.
In March?
Yeah.
Could you give a breakdown to this meeting of how they have been deployed throughout the local government fraternity in terms of regional corporations and so on?
Well, member, I would like to advise you that we had a batch passed out, which about 199, and they were deployed throughout the 14 corporations. We have a second batch training right now, and they should finish in a couple of months' time, and the same process will take place.
I hear you, Minister, of the number, but could you be specific to tell me, well, 5 went to Port of Spain, 2 went to Cuba? Give a breakdown.
I could provide that for you in writing.
Thank you.
East.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just trying to get some guidance from the Honorable Minister with respect to line item 005, where there's a disbursement of 30 million. But I'm trying to see if I could find the Chaguanas Borough Corporation. Is it that it is not there? Is it an error?
Please.
I am on head 42 current. You have a whole list of corporations to which sums are assigned.
Right, yes.
And I wanted to know whether it appears if Chaguanas Borough Corporation is not there, then they are adequately serviced with the requisite resources, and therefore may have not been so
Madam
listed.
Chairman, I'd like a ruling on this, please. Can we talk about supplementations that are not here? I am certain we can only talk about what is here.
Is what I say here?
And therefore, I would allow why Chaguanas is not here. Minister.
Madam Chairman, I could give you the answer. I have before me, the Chaguanas Corporation did not request. They didn't make the request for additional.
All right?
I'm not sure I hear what you said properly. Is it that the Chaguanas Borough Corporation did not request additional funding?
That's correct.
Member for Princestown.
Madam Chair, to the Honourable Minister. Honourable Minister, can you indicate with respect to the scavenging contracts that falls under this item, whether or not the ministry has engaged service providers with respect to long-term contracts, or are they still on month-to-month as we move forward?
I've been allowed that on this exercise. Member for Point of...
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister, the allocation of $1 million to Rural Development Company of Trinidad and Tobago. In the budgeted estimate for 2019, you had 0 budgeted, and now you are now asking for $1 million. What would be these expense, the $1 million, to cover what expense?
It's operational.
Given that you did not. Sorry, Madam Chair. Sorry, Madam Chair. That's not me.
The member I least expect to offend the rules is the whip.
Operational expenses.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Madam Chairman, I can answer that.
okay, just 1 minute. Let's just have a little order.
I will answer that question.
Yes.
The Rural Development Corporation may have had a subvention in previous years, but they earn their money through fees that they charge on projects. They're a project management company, similar to UDCONT. So that on every project they do, there will be a percentage of the construction cost. Let's say it's a $50 million project. They might charge 5%. They would earn $2.5 million from that, hypothetically. And that is how they would cover the cost of their operations. So they don't always need a subvention in the estimates because they earn money otherwise. This is just 1 million because we were told by the Rural Development Company, based on their projections in terms of the fees that they will earn for this fiscal and their operating costs, that they will need assistance with a subvention of $1 million.
But for Point of View?
Minister of Finance, based on your response, just for my clarity, who has oversight over this rural development? Yes.
Line minister would be the Minister of Rural Development. For operational matters and for governance, it's the corporation's sole Minister of Finance, as it is with all state enterprises.
Member for Couva North.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister, under local government bodies, like my colleague from Chaguanas East, I'm not seeing any allocations for Couva Tabaki Talparo Regional Corporation. Can you tell me what is happening there?
Madam Member, the same applies. They did not request for that.
Okay.
Member for Caroni Central.
Yes. Chair, with regard to rural development, some time ago, MPs were asked to make submissions of projects for their constituencies. Was this matter ever allocated for, and was it considered for this supplementation?
So you want to know if in the supplementation, if this allocation is covered?
Yes.
Yes, I'll allow that.
No. No.
Is it covered anywhere?
Minister?
Madam Speaker, there's a lot of noise. I'm having a little trouble here.
Minister, I'm sure you're accustomed
No, Madam Speaker, I'm
operating
not.
in such an environment.
I'm not.
Minister of Finance.
I'm not. Madam Speaker, the Rural Development Company, being a state enterprise, can be accommodated under the Infrastructure Development Fund. And that fund was set up to allow the Minister of Finance the flexibility to reallocate funds between state enterprises. So you don't have to see it in an appropriation. Where you will see it is in the closing of the accounts at the end of the fiscal year. That's how the IDF was set up. So we intend to assist the Rural Development Company with additional funds through the Infrastructure Development Fund in the balance of the fiscal year.
Okay, so funds will be allocated
funds
from
will
that.
be made available from the IDF and from other sources for RDC to do its projects.
All right, thank you very much.
Member for Couva South.
Just on a point of clarification, Madam Chair, the Minister indicated moments ago that for example, the Couva Tabaki Power Regional Corporation did not make any additional requests under this particular vote for provision of water trucking services and scavenging and so on. Minister, does that mean all the releases for the Couva Tabaki Power Regional Corporation have been fulfilled?
I will allow that as a question under this exercise, member. Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 42, Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, be supplemented by the sum of $39 million. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Head 42, Minister of Finance. Head 42, Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, has been supplemented by the sum of $39 million. Thank you, Minister. And the PS.
Chairman, may I make an intervention here with your indulgence? It is my understanding we have with us the Commissioner of Police, who is not a member of Parliament. So can we accommodate the police out of sequence and have them now, if you don't mind?
Might I say this? While we'll seek to accommodate anybody, it means that ministries would have been asked to come here in a particular order. And my fear is that we'll be inundated with requests. I will hold you to that. Members, we've not been asked to accommodate the TTPS out of turn. So I take it that there's no objection. Okay, so we move on, members, to Head 64. And I do apologize to the Ministry of Education, Labor and Small Enterprises, Public Utilities, and thank them for their indulgence. Head 64, Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, a supplementation of $75 million. I will now call upon the Minister of Finance to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes.
Yes, I will deputize for the Minister of National Security in the interim, Madam Chairman. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Services allocation is being supplemented in the sum of $75 million in recurrent expenditure made up of an additional $10.5 million for salaries, COLA, and allowances for police officers, $13 million for telephones to improve connectivity and improve their telecommunications, $6 million to assist in servicing their fleet of vehicles, which is now larger in size, $8 million to fill contract positions in specialized units such as cybercrime, social media unit, air support, financial investigative unit, etc., crime scene department. $2.5 million are being requested to supplement their allocation for repairs and maintenance to buildings. Yeah. Just let me, okay, do you want to take over? Okay, thank you. $5 million additional for fees, for software licenses, subscription fees for databases, for fingerprints and so on, GPS systems. $6.5 million for contracted services, other contracted services for consultancy to help the police service in prosecution matters. $3 million additional for janitorial services. $2.5 million for medical expenses for police officers as part of their terms and conditions of employment. $5 million for fuel and lubricants because of the increased size of the fleet. $12 million for other minor equipment to assist the police service in their crime-fighting capability, and $1 million additional for ex gratia awards granted by the Compensation Committee of the Police Service. All in an effort to assist the Commissioner of Police to have as much money as is available to assist the Commissioner and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to fulfill their mandate.
Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 64, Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, be supplemented by the sum of $75 million. Member for Naparima.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, I would wish you to correct me if I'm wrong, but I did read somewhere that the Commissioner of Police had indicated that he was under-resourced in certain areas. If that is correct, to what extent would this allocation meet the Commissioner's needs so that we could have an efficient and effective police service?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I understand that the member for Naparima may not be aware, but there is every single government department, every single ministry always can do with more resources. But this sum of $75 million, as the Minister of Finance has stated, out of what is available to the country at this point in time, is a significant amount of money that he has generously allocated to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, recognizing the important role that the Commissioner and his men and women in the police service play in Trinidad and Tobago. And at this stage, this was the best that can be done. The Commissioner does an excellent job, Madam Chair, in prioritizing and spending the money, getting the best value for money. And he has already identified, along with his executive, where this $75 million would best be spent in order to get the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to a level that he wants to take it to.
Rima.
Chair, I'm reading that the sum is required to facilitate payment of salaries and COLA and allowances to police officers. Does that mean that the other sectors of the police service are reasonably satisfied with the allocations to date?
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. That particular sub-item is the increase to meet the cost of an additional 57 members of staff and the payment of COLA to SRP officers. The COLA was not included in 2019 draft estimates, and approval to pay COLA was granted to the Commissioner of Police in November 2018.
So the question is that this was the only request made that you're satisfying?
But by definition, it isn't, because there are a number of sub-items. So I don't understand the question. The request was made for telephone, we got money for telephone. Okay. A request made for maintenance of vehicles, we got money there. Contract employment, got money there. Repairs and maintenance. So the answer is no, it's not the only request that was made. There were many requests made, and with these requests, amounts were received.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Minister answered the question in relation to the payment of COLA and salaries.
Member for Princess Town.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, the Commissioner of Police has been reported as saying that the service will embark on acquiring 50 new unmarked vehicles for their operations. With respect to line item 02001113, maintenance of vehicles, the explanation says additional funds are required to service the fleet, which has increased in size. Can you indicate whether or not this sum represents the maintenance of those additional 50 unmarked vehicles?
Minister of National Security.
Again, as the member for Princestown just reported, having read a report somewhere, the Commissioner of Police said he intends to get those vehicles. Those vehicles have not as yet been acquired, so therefore, by definition, those vehicles, having not been acquired, cannot as yet be maintained.
Member for Caroni Central.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 3 questions. The first one is, how many data sites does the police service?
What line item is that?
The issue of telephones, the 13
Right.
million, right? How many data sites does the police service now have? And what would this supplementation do to increase by how many the data sites and the telephones?
There are currently 110 data sites, and at this stage, they're not being increased.
Not being?
Increased. You asked how many would this go towards increasing?
So the allocation
answered
is really
question.
for telephones then?
The allocation is to maintain the payment of bills for fiscal 2019 for the landlines at the various police stations, cell phones as well, to provide internet and cable expenses, internet and cable services.
Okay, second question,
That's
Madam
3.
Chair, through you.
That's 3 questions.
In terms of this contract employment for these specific areas under the Commissioner of Police, are these vacant positions going to be filled by transfer, or is there going to be a transparent process of new applications?
Minister of National Security.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, all of the fillings of posts under the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service will be done in a transparent manner. This is actually to maintain current employment and to fill positions in certain specialist units such as Cybercrime Unit, the Crime Scene Department, Financial Investigations Unit. The positions include, for example, 4 experts in cybercrime and 2 network security experts. And
So
those positions,
these are going to be publicly advertised?
yes.
Okay, and under other contracted services, the issue that is raised here is the allocation to procure consultancy service to assist the police service in prosecution. I wanted to find out whether that would be consultants who would be involved in the prosecutorial process themselves in supplementation of police now engaged in that, or whether they would be training existing prosecutors.
Minister of National Security.
Madam Chair, this will be a mixture because you need investigators before you get to the stage of prosecutors. So it will be a mixture between the supplementation of the investigative arm as well as assistance of the prosecutorial arm.
Member for Miaru.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Minister, I take note that the Commissioner is using a lot of technology in his crime-fighting arsenal. And under telephones, again, I know it's subbed under telephones, but I take note of the increase in network connectivity, data usage, and so on. Would we be seeing any furtherance in the use of like body cams and so on, which I know are data-intensive equipment in the fight against crime this year in terms of increasing the arsenal for his officers?
Not in this fiscal, because the Commissioner has to go through the public tender process, and as you may know, that will take some time, unfortunately.
to the Minister. Minister, in the contract employment line 020116, the Police Air Support Unit, can you just specifically state what that unit consists of and the vacancies that are required in that particular unit?
Madam Speaker, Madam Chair, the Commissioner of Police has been reinvigorating as well as looking to expand this unit with the use of drone technology. So it's drone operators, persons who can assist with drone technology. Finish your
Vancouver
plea
North.
bargaining, man.
Member for Oropouche West.
Honorable Minister, under subhead 02-00121, repairs and maintenance, I'm seeing an allocation of 2.5 million. Can you provide us a list of the buildings that will undergo such repair? And if you have a list of the contractors who have been procured to do such?
So what? Contractors?
And the buildings that will undergo the repair and maintenance.
Always interested in contractors, eh?
Answer
Madam
the
Chair,
question now.
the answer is this money will be utilized to maintain and repair all 73 police stations, 30 other police stations, police buildings, towards the end of fiscal 2019. At this stage, we don't know who the contractors will be.
And I would presume there will be a procurement process also.
Absolutely.
Member for Vancouver South.
The Minister has partially answered the question that I'm about to pose in relation to contract employment, Minister, and the specialized units. Could you just elaborate on the number of vacancies that will be filled in the various specialized units?
Madam Chair, at this stage, we're looking at 4 experts in the cybercrime unit and 2 security experts in the network security expert, 2 network security experts in that cybercrime unit. Those are the new positions to be filled. Of course, this is to also supplement those who are already existing in these units.
Thank you.
Member for Princestown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Honourable Minister, under other contracted services, just to follow up on a point made by the member of Carney Central, it says the sum is required to procure consultancy services to assist the police service in prosecution. The question really is whether or not the TTPS has already or is currently recruiting
What was the
any of
question?
these consultants.
Yes.
Yes. So it is actively happening before the
police,
supplementation
this
is
is
made.
a supplementation. So as I said a short while ago, they've already procured, as we all know, there are already persons in position. So this is to add to that amount of persons who are already in position.
Okay. And line item 03000104, other minor equipment, the sum is required to procure equipment to enhance the TTPS crime fighting capabilities. Could the Minister give us an idea of what this expenditure in terms of minor equipment would entail with respect to crime fighting capabilities?
Tasers, pepper spray, surveillance equipment, bulletproof vests, utility belts, routers, switches, body-worn cameras.
Member for Oropouche. Member for Oropouche. Honourable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 64, Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, be supplemented by the sum of $75 million. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Head 64, Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, has been supplemented by the sum of $75 million. Thank you to the Minister of National Security. Thank you to the Commissioner of Police and to the members of your team. We now revert to the normal order. We go now to Head 26, Ministry of Education. Head 26, Ministry of Education, a supplementation of $50 million. I will now head 26. I will now invite the Minister of Education to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes. Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there are 3 areas that have been identified as additional expenditure for our mid-year review. These 3 areas are short-term employment, fees, and National School Dietary Services Limited. We are now open to questions.
Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 26, Ministry of Education, be supplemented by the sum of $50 million. Member for Princestown.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To the Honourable Minister, line item 0401102, National Schools Dietary Services Limited. Minister, we see an allocation of 24.2 million, and we know for a while that there have been claims of caterers and so on have outstanding payments. Could the Honourable Minister indicate whether or not this allocation of 24 million would take care of all those outstanding payments? Or if not all, the percentage
The
of that?
simple answer to this question is no, but we are working assiduously to ensure that all our caterers are paid.
Can Minister give us an idea in terms of a percentage of how much of the outstanding payments will be taken care of with this allocation?
About a third, 33.3%.
1/3. Could the Honourable Minister give us an idea of how many caterers currently have outstanding balances in terms of payments?
Most of the caterers are owed outstanding money, and at this point I can't quantify the number of caterers.
Would the Honourable Minister be kind enough to provide that
Certainly,
subsequently?
we'll provide
Thank
that
you.
answer for you.
Member for Chaguanas East.
Madam Chair. Honourable Minister, this figure is for caterers and suppliers. Of this $24.2 million, how much of that will be for the caterers and how much will be for suppliers?
Minister of Education.
You will get that breakdown in writing.
Can you say as well, effective how soon will the caterers be receiving what is due to them?
Well, as soon as the media review has been passed, then we expect the caterers to be paid.
Will there be any further cuts in terms of that this figure is being allocated now? Will there be any reduction in meals?
No, we don't anticipate any reduction in meals.
Do you see any reduction in caterers?
Neither.
When was the last, might you be able to, I'm trying to make some calculations arithmetically. Might you be able to tell us what's the cost or what is being paid to caterers for a lunch and for a breakfast?
That has been said over and over many times.
Well, I'm sure you remember it very well, so you could tell us now.
I'll give you that information.
I thought you said.
Yes, it has been told over and over, so I thought you would have known that.
All right, okay, all right. Okay.
Member for Kamuto Manzanilla.
Madam Chair, line item 02000122, can the Honourable Minister indicate how many invigilators does the ministry hire?
Invigilators.
Yes?
Additional.
The additional, yes. Does the ministry hire on average each year? And how many will be paid from this sum, please?
I will give you that answer in writing.
Member for Caroni East.
Yeah, Honourable Minister, nice to see you there. Well, take a smile anyway. The examination fees have increased by 18 million. Could you just give us an idea? I know that you had budgeted 46 million in 2019, but you're now asking for another 18.8 million. What would have what be responsible for that? Are there more examinations we pay in CXC for?
There was a shortfall in the allocation that we received, and that is the reason why now we have this deficit.
No, but Minister, if we go back to 18 and the same 46 million, but this is in addition to the 46 million that we have been paying yearly for the last 3 or 4 years. But this one is 64. Is there a
There
reason?
was an outstanding balance for previous years.
From before?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Member for Princess Down.
The question was raised.
Answer. Member for Couva South.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Minister, I noted in the public domain recently that a CXC practical examiner indicated that they were owed monies for SBA, or school-based assessment moderators. Could you tell us if this will take care of that outstanding sum and how much is owed to them and for what period?
I am not aware, first of all, of any CXC practical SBA examiner. First time I'm hearing that term. I'm not aware of that.
Well, are you aware that this is in the public domain, that persons who work for, on behalf of the Ministry of Education, is owed monies in relation to marking school-based assignments?
That is not so. No one has been paid or is owed for marking SBAs.
So you are telling this meeting that Ms. Veronica Romain is telling a lie?
Well, remember, I don't believe that that's a fair question, and I will not allow you to ask that question. You've asked the minister with respect to whether monies are owed for SBA. He says he's not aware that any money is owed. You asked him if he knows it's in the public domain. He said no. Okay, so I wouldn't allow that question about Miss whatever her name is. I wouldn't allow that, please. Member for Shogunas East.
Madam Chair, Honorable Minister, with this additional 18.8 million, will this totally clear your indebtedness for the cost of examination fees? And if not, what will be the outstanding amount?
It will not clear, and the outstanding amount will be somewhat in the region of 44 million.
Wow. And to whom are these fees paid?
Or that will be for the caterers and the service providers.
No, these are these examinations.
You're talking about exams?
Exams, yeah.
00123.
All right, sorry. Okay. Okay, let me revise those figures.
Sure, no problem.
The shortfall is still 10 million.
Okay. And I was asking to whom these fees being paid?
These fees will be paid to CXC for the administration of the exams, the SCA, the CSEC, and the CAPE examinations.
Okay. And just a final question. Honorable, so with respect to the line item in terms of the invigilators, will this amount of 7 million totally clear your indebtedness? And if not, again, a similar vein, how much money will you still owe the invigilators?
Yes, I've been told that it will clear the money that is owed.
And I don't know if it was asked before, forgive me, how many invigilators are we talking about?
I can't give a number offhand. If you want that in writing, I'll certainly provide that for you.
Okay.
Member for Carneys. Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 26, Ministry of Education, be supplemented by the sum of $50 million. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Head 26, Ministry of Education, has been supplemented by the sum of $50 million. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, PS and your team. We go on to Head 30, Ministry of Labor and Small Enterprise Development. Head 30, Ministry of Labor and Small Enterprise Development. A supplementation of $39,258,000. I will now invite the Minister of Labour and Small Enterprise Development to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes. Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good afternoon to you and members, honorable members. Madam Chair, the on-the-job training program was established in the year 2002 by the then Prime Minister, the Honorable Patrick Augustus Mervyn Manning, for the young people of Trinidad and Tobago between the ages of 16 years and 35 to allow them to obtain the necessary job experience. This program has been doing extremely well, and contextually, we are here to clarify any areas that are required clarifying by those members in this honorable house.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 30, Ministry of Labour and Small Enterprise Development, be supplemented by the sum of $39,258,000. Member for Shogunas East.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Honorable Minister, you indicated, or we have some information that with effect from November 2018, there was an average of 400 trainees per month have been recruited. Is that accurate? And if it is not, you can tell us what's the average amount. But the question really is, how many more trainees will this increase be catering for?
I would say approximately 1,600.
Okay.
Averaging 400 a month.
Okay. Might you also be able to advise us as to, if you have the figure, of those persons who are, can you tell us how many persons are currently on the program?
Yes, certainly. 5,033 trainees are presently.
Okay. I'm aware of the levels, but I know it's 5 levels. Might you be able to give us an idea of how we break down that into
Absolutely. Level 1, and the monthly stipend, $2,750. Level 2, $3,960. Level 3, $4,950. Level 4, $6,875, and level 5, $7,920.
Okay, I'm aware of the figure because I had helped to increase the numbers, but could you tell us how many persons are in each of those levels?
Level 1, there is a total of 1,680. Level 2, a total of 781. Level 3, a total of 199. Level 4, a total of 1,819. And level 5, 190.
Okay. Honourable Minister, is it possible for you to tell us, of those numbers, how many trainees are engaged in the public sector and how many are employed or engaged in the private sector?
The public providers, a total of 1,218. The private providers, 89, and NGOs, 34.
And that adds up to the total amount engaged now? I don't find the arithmetic reminding me.
That's the number of providers.
Oh, providers.
Yes.
Yeah, I was really asking if you can tell us of the total amount who are, and I want to use the word attached, how many are attached in the public sector and how many are attached in the private sector?
That information can be provided subsequent.
Okay. Honourable Minister, is it possible for you to tell us, because part of the sums of money here, I understand will be allocated or will be utilized for hosting the pre-placement training session at the Cipriani Labor College. Is that correct?
Yes, we are having those sessions monthly in order to place a maximum of 400.
And is that the only venue for the pre-placement training?
Well, it's the only venue that is available to us that we do not have to pay for.
But for the entire country of people who are going to be attached?
Well, let me put it this way, Honorable Member. We have had no complaints so far.
No, I was really asking, in terms of the geographic spread of these potential OJT trainees who are going to be placed, and you have the pre-training sessions, do you think that one location for the entire Trinidad, I know they will probably, do you have one in Tobago?
Yes, we do.
So for the entire of Trinidad, you only have one in the north. Will this sum of money suffice for, because you say you're getting it free at Cipriani, but are you considering?
Cipriani Labor College falls under the remit of the Ministry of Labor.
Are you considering any other locations? I know it is not, I know the Minister of Finance may ask me.
Well, I don't think that arises.
So I'm just asking, again, just for clarification, are you indicating to us that there'll be one facility that is going to be used in taking up some of this $39.258 million for pre-placement training session?
Let me see how best I can simplify it. It is our goal, our objective, to place, to train, and to place a maximum of 400 trainees each month. The orientation program is for 5 days, and those programs are held at the Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies.
Okay, I want to simplify it and make it as palatable as possible. And the question is really, as a trainee, a potential trainee from Guayari, who has to be placed among that 400, will be required to travel to Cipriani College of Labor and Cooperative Studies.
I think, Member, for Shoguna's
I
think that point has been, because you asked in terms of the geographic spread, you've asked it. So I don't think there's any more clarification you might be wanting to underscore, but I don't know that we can afford that.
That's another question, with your permission, Madam Chair. What's the cost? You say the venue is free. What's the cost of these sessions? Do you cater? Do you have anybody who you pay to train them, or is it in-house persons?
Thus far, we are quite fortunate that those who contribute to the program by way of sharing of their skills and experience and expertise do it for free.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Member for Caroni East.
Madam Minister, you are bringing on 400 new ones every month. Could you give us a little idea? That's replacing, what is your attrition for those who have been in the OJT program for 2 years? Approximately how many leave the program after 2 years? If you can give us.
Member for Caroni East, I wouldn't allow that kind of questioning in this forum. You're free to take it up in another forum, but not this one. Do you have another question that is allowed in this forum?
No.
Thank you. Member for Couva South.
Madam Chair, could the Minister be so kind, I know she may not have this information, to provide, in terms of the number of people in the program currently, a breakdown by constituency basis?
Madam Chair, I would just like to advise my member of Parliament that this program does not operate on the basis of constituencies, and he's well aware of that.
No, I'm asking if you are willing to provide.
Information is not available, Madam Chairman. Doesn't exist.
Member for Shogunas East.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Is it possible for your Honourable Minister to give us an idea of the numbers by offices? For example, you have a number of offices to which these potential OJTs will go to register. They could do it online as well. Do you have a breakdown that you could assist my colleague in terms of the various offices, how many persons they're responsible for?
Madam Chair, I think I need your assistance in helping me to decipher exactly what the member for Shogunas East is asking me. Is it that he's asking me how many offices at which young persons in Trinidad and Tobago can register to participate in the OJT program? Is that what is being asked?
Member for Shogunas East?
What is happening? Okay, let me ask another question.
So the answer to that is yes or no? That's not what,
No,
that's not what
the question really is to get an idea as to how many trainees are responsible to a particular office. For example, you have offices in Shogunas, you have offices in San Fernando, you have offices in Port of Spain. And I think what my colleague was asking when he was rebutted in terms of a constituency, I'm trying to assist to see for each of those offices, because you have field officers.
So what you're trying to get is at the geographic reach of the program.
And the amount of people there.
Madam Chair.
Oh God, this hard.
I gave...
Just now, there's a passion that we're developing for bringing God into here. And, I really have to tell all of us, let's leave God for his other
Sorry,
place.
it must be the month of Ramadan, sorry.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I am here to facilitate. With regards to the question asked, I want to be sure that I understand it. Is it that you would want to know how many young persons were registered geographically?
Yes.
Because we have offices in Port of Spain, in San Fernando, in Central, in Tobago, in Tunapuna. So we do not have that information with us at this point in time in terms of how many persons registered at these offices. And may I inquire through you, Madam Chair, what is the period that you're looking at? Is it January to April 2019? Is it January 2018 to January 2019? Please guide me.
We're only looking for fiscal
Correct.
2019.
Yeah.
2019.
And do you foresee, Honorable Minister, this increase in the allocation, do you foresee an increase in staffing?
There may be, particularly at the level of placement and marketing officer too. There may be.
Member for Couva South. Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 30, Ministry of Labour and Small Enterprise Development, be supplemented by the sum of $39,258,000. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Head 30, Ministry of Labour and Small Enterprise Development, has been supplemented by the sum of $39,258,000. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, PS, and other members of the staff. Good evening.
Members.
We now go on to Head 39, Ministry of Public Utilities. Head 39, Ministry of Public Utilities, a supplementation of $200 million. I will now invite the Minister of Public Utilities to make a brief opening statement for a maximum of 5 minutes. Minister.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, other members of the House. It is indeed an honor for me to address the Standing Finance Committee and Parliament this afternoon as the Minister of Public Utilities, where I continue to serve the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago as a country, Madam Chairman, is woefully below recommended international standards regarding the storage, per capita of water. The figure reaching my attention from international consultants, our storage levels are approximately 5% of the recommended levels. As at May the 6th, 2019,
Honorable members, I would like to hear the Minister of Public Utilities, Couva South. Minister, please proceed.
The volumes of water in the major impounded reservoirs, which are the only source of raw water storage in the country, are dangerously below the long-term average for the current period. 59% of WASA's water supply come from surface water, while groundwater and rural intakes and springs represents 20% and 1% respectively. The remaining 20% of WASA's water supplied to the public comes from two privately owned operated desalination plants, Desalcut and Seven Seas. WASA's recurrent allocation for fiscal 2019 was $1,827,670,000, of which $556 million, or 30%, is allocated to the purchase of water from Desalcut, and 88.6% of the allocation to materials and supplies is used for water from both desalination plants, for which WASA has service agreements. The Desalcut agreement, however, is the longest and dates back to 1999 and was amended in 2012 and is due to expire in 2036. Madam Chairman, the increase in allocation of $200 million to WASA will facilitate the payment of all bills to our major desalination plant at Point Lisas, and by extension, ensure that the 98.5% uptime delivery reliability presently being experienced by the company is maintained. In closing, Madam Chairman, in spite of the challenging environment, both myself and members of my team at the Ministry continue to work assiduously to deliver all public utility services to all citizens. I thank you.
Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 39, Ministry of Public Utilities, be supplemented by the sum of $200 million. Member for Couva North.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Minister, can you state the period for which the outstanding payments will be paid?
The outstanding, the payments that is being allocated, well, as I said, will take the amount of money that is owed to Desalcut based on the allocation for Desalcut, based on past bills and based on bills to come, will allow us to meet that allocated payment. The outstanding payments for Desalcut has been some, as I was brought forward from the 30th of September 2018, and it's what we have going forward.
Member for Caroni East.
Honorable Minister, would you be in a position to indicate what is the total fee that WASA has to pay that will create this outstanding amount for both desalination units, both desalination companies, on a yearly basis?
Minister?
Yes, for the amount for invoices, I'll just give you an example. The amount for the invoices from October to April so far for Desalcut totals $277,689,583.87. So for the period October to April, that's the level of invoices and the amount of money that is due to Desalcut. And the other one? The other payment, contracted amount. Yes, 7 Cs. Okay, I will guess Seas. I will probably provide you with 7 Seas. I think I have it here, but I will provide that one for you, the actual amount for 7 Seas. All right, so I get the answer that for approximately 6 months, October to April, or 7 months. So, but yes, in the case of 7 Seas desalinated, the amount budgeted for 7 Seas was 106 for the year, and we are up to date with 7 Seas, so there is no problem. So that's an average of how much 7 Seas will cost. 580. So totally, from what you said, Minister, we're looking at close to about $680 million for payment for desalination water on a yearly basis. Yes, you are looking at about that. 680. But you said they provide 20% of the water. Yes. And, but they account for about 35 to 40% of your amount of 1.8 billion per year for water. Why is that discrepancy? If they provide 20% water, why are they accounting for about 40% of your annual? Because the cost of desalinated water is very expensive, the most expensive water that you could have. Therefore, you're paying close to, in the case of $1 US, and in some cases, a lot more in the case of the 7 Seas. So it's a very expensive supply to provide water via desalination plant. Hence the reason why you're always trying to find, right, a lot of money. You try to increase your water sources from other areas other than just desalination. Desalination water as a solution to provide the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. It's way below the money that is actually being charged.
Member for
That's why it is disproportionate.
Member for Couva North.
Minister, would you say that these outstanding payments to the Salcott further, hampered the Salcott supply to South and Central with respect to servicing?
No, I
services?
can't. No, I mean, this Salcott has been very good. That's why I mentioned that their uptime and their delivery is close to about 98. I think I said 98.5. And that's what's just being give or take. They have actually been very good. As a matter of fact, during this period, we are actually taking a little bit more than the required 40 million gallons that they produce a day. They are up to averaging more like 41, 42 to help augment the shortages that we've been doing. That was part of our contingency plan. So we are taking a little bit more. And the uptime and delivery has actually been excellent.
Honorable members, the question is that the 2019 appropriation for Head 39, Ministry of Public Utilities, be supplemented by the sum of $200 million. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. I think the ayes have it. Head 39, Ministry of Public Utilities, has been supplemented by the sum of $200 million. I thank you, Minister of Public Utilities, Madam P.S., and the members of your team. Right. Honorable members, it is now 4:23, almost 4:23. Would now be an appropriate time for us to take the suspension for tea? Yes, and therefore then we would resume here at 4:50.